Holy City Center Radio, it is episode 411, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is October 2nd, 2025. What's up, all you saints and sinners out there? Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to be back with you after a short little break, which is what this whole episode is going to be about, is about the break. Obviously, a lot going on in the news locally and nationally, whether it's Nancy Mace going on some racist tirades, or the president sharing racist memes, or this weird military pep rally where Pete Hegseth is scolding military people for being too woke and saying that generals are too fat. And I mean, that's just over the last few days, plus the whole Kimmel, Colbert of it all. And it's just, and that's just not even scratching the surface. I mean, we've got a government shutdown that started at midnight, Wednesday, technically. And whatever that will mean locally and nationally. And yeah, there's lots going on. And that was part of the reason, if you remembered, the episode where I mentioned I wanted to take October off. Obviously, I know that you're listening to this, in October, or at least it came out in October. But this is the last episode of Holy City Center Radio for now. I don't have a set return date. And yes, there's always that possibility that this is the end. That's not my plan. I love doing the show, and I do want to come back. As I mentioned in that previous episode, it's just between everything going on in the world and how tiring it is, not just living through it and reading and watching and everything. It's because with Holy City Center, although majority of it is Charleston and South Carolina specific, I follow the news, and on platforms like Twitter, I share some national news. It used to be a lot more fun doing that when Twitter wasn't X and wasn't horrible like it is now. And I still post on Twitter all the time. I have a lot of followers there, the most on any platform, so I certainly don't want to give that up. It's just I don't have the fun I used to with interacting with people, and that sucks too. So the combination of seeing the news, reading it, consuming it, trying to figure out what I feel about it, what I should share, what I shouldn't share, is it going to be worth the crappy comments that a certain segment of the population are going to say when I post this? It's just become really tiring, and it's not as fun to do that stuff. So, and then I come on here and talk about it, which sometimes is great. It's a nice therapy session for me. Whether it helps any of you out or not, I don't know. And so I just wanted to take a step back, not from the entirety of Holy City Center, but just a couple things, tweaking a couple things to just try to get back in a really good headspace. And last week, I was really, really busy with, normal Holy City Center stuff. And, maybe I could have squeaked out an episode or two, but it just seemed so daunting, given the topics that would come up. But, another one we've been dealing with is this whole RJ May thing. He did plead guilty to some child sex abuse material charges, possessing them. I forget the exact charges. That's not something that's enjoyable to talk about, of course, but it is important for a platform about Charleston and South Carolina to share that news in some capacity. And it's just, like I said, a lot of it just felt daunting or overwhelming, and that's just a me thing. Like I said, this is like a therapy session for me, even though I think I have therapy today, in a little bit. But this felt like the easiest aspect to take a break from, because it's not as day to day as what I normally do, and there's some other factors to it as well, and so yeah, just gonna take a little break, kind of reset. But in addition to that, I thought, maybe it's a good time to kind of revisit the platform of this podcast as far as like what the show is. We've been doing the show. I say we a lot because my great producer, Lindsay Marie Collins, with LMC Sound System, her great company where she produces podcasts. If you're listening to a podcast in Charleston, particularly if it's a good one, she is probably the producer for that podcast, or was at some point. Maybe people went on their own. Although it seems when people try to go on their own after having her help, they disappear. And there's a reason for it. It's a lot of work, and I greatly appreciate everything she's done for the podcast and her guidance. Ideas. I could bounce stuff off of her. She'd always provide me with feedback if it was needed. Hey, I think you missed this setting, or hey, I thought that topic was great today, or whatever. And I've greatly appreciated her support. But that's why I say we a lot. But she doesn't actually have anything to do with the content. That's all me. So if you're upset about the content or didn't like certain directions I took, that's all on me. I just would be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And she would make sure she edited it appropriately and it sounded great. So that's why I say we a lot, but a lot of time it's just me. But in this sense, it really was a we, in that her and I have been doing this podcast since 2021. And it was a weekly thing. And she used to come to my apartment or my condo and would sit there, and poor Lindsay would have to sit there and listen to me live and then listen to it again later to edit it. And then we evolved it where I got my own equipment. I could record from home, so that way we didn't have to coordinate schedules and she wouldn't have to travel here. And that's been an amazing setup. I've really enjoyed it. I'm just able to record and then be like, hey, here's the episode, here are the details, and she handles all the gritty work. And so it's been 4 years of doing it. And after only doing it weekly, I decided, hey, let's do this thing 3 times a week. Which admittedly was an idea stolen from Sam Spence, former Charleston City Paper editor, and he's held other jobs related to media with the City Paper and otherwise. And he had a podcast for a little while, and I thought, this is a great idea. Like 3 times a week, you just bam, you hit the news. And I changed it a little bit because he was more straightforward news. Like he wasn't giving opinions, and I just can't help myself, especially when there's a microphone in front of me. And I've enjoyed doing that. It's been nice to, not have to cut stories as often because you're only doing it weekly and you're like, this episode's getting too long or whatever. And although I've enjoyed that, I've found over time it's getting harder to do 3 shows a week as far as my schedule. I'm just so busy with Holy City Center stuff. So part of me wants to revisit, okay, what's the format of this show going forward? Do I want to continue down that path of 3 times a week? Should I shorten it up? Maybe that will also help get more listeners. It can be overwhelming because people are just like TV shows. People are always like, have you listened to this podcast? Have you listened to this podcast? And I highly doubt, say like the national podcast that people are like, you got to listen to it. Maybe there's a couple people have been like, yeah, Holy City Center's got a podcast if you're interested. So it's already tough enough to get people to subscribe and stay here. And it can be daunting if your show is constantly in their feed and they're like, just show, I got, maybe people unsubscribe. I don't know. This is all in my head. I don't look at stats and things in the background ever, because I don't really want to get too focused on that stuff, because then it defeats the purpose, which, just like the website, has always just been me wanting to share Charleston news and information, particularly things that I love or are passionate about, sometimes things I'm angry about. So anyway, all that is to say, I want to revisit the format perhaps. Maybe it'll be less episodes in a week. Maybe we'll go back to weekly. I don't know. I'm going to try to figure this thing out without it's hard to figure out changes when you're in it. And I'm busy, as I mentioned. Have I said that before? So it's hard to take a moment to really reflect on it when you're like, well, oh no, I got to prepare the show though. So this will give me a chance to have a little bit more free time and a chance to kind of step back from it and think about what I want to do going forward. Not just what I want to do, but what I think might be best in terms of getting people to listen to the show and enjoy it. And so we'll see. And, the plan at first was like for sure October, but it might turn out to be longer than that. There'll be, when I'm ready to return, there'll be some things to work out. Lindsay, of course, number one, the producer, I got to make sure her schedule still works right. If I have changes, what that would mean. And, so there's a lot of factors that'll go into it. So that's why I don't really want to say for sure this date or this month or whatever, the show will be back. but the plan is to come back. So although I'm, it might sound like I'm saying, hey, goodbye, thanks for everything. And I do thank everyone involved with this show, whether it's Lindsay or Tyler Boone, he was gracious enough to let me use his music on the show, and all the amazing guests I've had, people who have pitched guests, people who have left reviews, subscribed, anyone who's listened to the show. I mean, I am so grateful. As someone who, in college, of all the media things, I loved the radio the most. And I knew even then, although this is, just a handful of years ago, when I graduated, I knew radio wasn't necessarily an industry that, it was not what it was when I was even a kid. And in college, I recognized that change. But also, same with journalism, newspapers. I knew that industry was changing as well. So I didn't really know where this radio passion of mine could go. And I was so happy to, when podcasts became a thing, and I know everyone has a podcast now, but it was just something that reminded me of those days and I enjoyed doing. So yeah, it's something that I like so much that I don't want to let it go. So I do want to come back, and it's just a matter of figuring out the details of when. So number one, look, you do what you got to do, but if you've enjoyed the show, don't unsubscribe. The plan is to come back, and the best way to make sure you don't miss that comeback episode is by remaining subscribed to the podcast. If you're not currently subscribed, please do it now. For the same reason, it'll be the easiest way for you to know when the show comes back. In addition to that, if you want to stay up to date on Charleston information and news that's provided by Holy City Center specifically, obviously you all know the website is holycitycenter.com. The most popular page every year since I started this thing is the events calendar. So holycitycenter.com/calendar. So those are the best ways to stay up with posts and, of course, the calendar itself. But if you more enjoy, the Twitter of it all, I am on Twitter. I'm also on Blue Sky, which is very left-leaning at this point, which makes it feel like a safer space to share things and not have to watch an article get bogged down by insane conspiracy theories or, racist or bigoted comments or, threats or just the nonsense that you sometimes see on Twitter. But I'm still on there as well, sharing anytime I post an article on Holy City Center, I share it on Twitter and I share it on Facebook. I don't share everyone on Blue Sky because it's just so much to keep up with. But I do share some Holy City in Charleston specific things on Blue Sky, but I do mix in national stories a lot more on Blue Sky. So if you're more looking for a place where people might be a little bit more left-leaning and liberal, and I'm sharing stories that are in that vein, that's the best place to see those. If you're more, hey, I just kind of want the Charleston news, maybe some, national stories, the big ones shared, Twitter and Facebook are going to be the best places to do that. I also have a newsletter. It's called the Daily Ish Gospel because I try to get it out every day, or at least Monday to Friday, but it varies. Sometimes I miss a day or two here or there. And that is just a collection of the day's top stories. It's a mix of literally, a story that broke that day, as well as maybe, some fun entertainment or food or bev news that you may have missed. And then sometimes some articles that are a little bit older, but maybe weren't as newsy, so you might not have caught them. It's just a good way to keep up with everything that's being posted. So please sign up for that. You can do it on the website. There's on the sidebar, you can see, there's like a graphic and says sign up here, something along those lines. I have a YouTube page that's not really going to be updated much. Same with TikTok. And that's another thing I've been thinking about, especially the TikTok of it all and Instagram stories. Like a lot of people are getting their news from these platforms in these short little clips, and maybe that's something I'll look into, for bigger stories or fun stuff, maybe putting more content together on those platforms. So we'll see. But I do have accounts on those if you want to go and follow in case that's something I end up dedicating time to, and as we move forward. Because that's the other part of this. Holy City Center is something that I created. We're getting close to 20 years ago. I created it in 2011, which is sorry, not 20 years. The 15-year anniversary, obviously, is what I meant to say, is coming up next year, 2026, and it's evolved from this rinky-dink website that I put together on like WordPress. And have been able to add, whether it's social media accounts, this podcast. I've had some people redesign the website so it looks a lot more professional, and I've changed that a couple times over the years. And there's always been an evolution, something new, whether it's because there's a shift in how the public consumes news and media, or something I just wanted to do. So that's something else I want to take this time away from the podcast to think about too, is what's that next evolution of Holy City Center itself? What does that look like? What are people wanting to know about in Charleston? What do they not want to know about? And how are they finding that information? Is it the ways I've been providing it, or are there new ways that might be better as we, get a younger generation coming up? And again, just no matter your age, people consume news and media in different ways. So that's another thing. And I'm open to any ideas. If you guys are like, hey, I'd really think it'd be cool if you did this and this, or, hey, it's hard to stay up to date, but if you did this, I think. So if you have ideas, please reach out to me. Christian at holycitycenter.com. The email is the best way to do it, but you can also, if you follow me on socials, send me a DM, but sometimes those get lost in like a request box. So email is a great way to reach out to me. But feel free to use any of the other methods. So that's where we're at. Like I said, this episode is to let people know, anybody who is still listening, what's going on, but also, as usual, kind of a therapy session for me, where I can talk about, just talk things out. Sometimes this helps me realize what I actually feel about stuff. So thank you if you did bear with me. I appreciate it. As I said, please follow on whatever platforms you prefer. I'm also on Nextdoor now. It's just the RSS feed. So anytime I publish an article, it just goes right to like the Holy City Center Nextdoor page, which has been interesting. It's not a platform I really use, but it is a place that apparently there's a good chunk of people who are on there quite a bit. And they do comment on some of the posts and things. So that was interesting. It's just something I just did on a whim because I didn't really have to put any effort. I just had to put in some code, give some code to Nextdoor, and then they just pull, my articles as they're published. A little bit of a delay on it, but nonetheless. So yeah, who knows? Who knows what the future holds as far as new platforms or removing some, or how the show will change. But the plan is to come back. So until I do come back, number one, thank you to Lindsay, as I mentioned already, just producer extraordinaire. She's done an amazing job having this own business she created, and I've seen it grow in the nearly 5 years that I've been doing this show with her, and how she's so good at what she does, and she adds stuff too. There's some podcasts that have video aspects to it that she helps out with, and so just a huge thank you to her, because this never would have happened without her, because there was no way I was going to teach myself editing and every little thing I needed to do to get a podcast up and running. It may be the easiest thing in the world. It's not. I'm joking. It's not. But it could have been. And I just didn't feel like putting in the effort. I was like, well, Lindsay could do it, right? So much thanks to her. And thanks to Tyler Boone, who was a former guest on the show too in the early days, who said, yeah, you can definitely use my music in every show. So I really appreciate that. Again, thanks to every guest that's been on, anybody who has pitched a guest, because I do get emails from, PR firms, or sometimes people directly will be like, hey, I'm doing this thing and I would like to talk about it if you're interested. So to thank you to all those folks as well. There's a lot of times that a PR firm was like, hey, this might be fun. And I won't lie, I was like, I'll do it because I don't have a guest right now, and maybe it'll be interesting to someone. And I want to keep a good relationship with, different people in town, and show that I'm willing to not just hold out for some huge guest or some big get or whatever. Like, no, the point was supposed to be to share things that are happening in Charleston, big and small. And a lot of times I was like, this seems real small. Is anyone even going to care? Maybe people did, maybe people didn't, but I enjoyed the interviews. There was always something where I was like, oh, wow, I did not think this person was going to, have this many interesting things to talk about, or I didn't think it was going to go this way. And so, that's been a fun thing for me too. So when I do get pitches sometimes and I'm like, I don't know, is anyone really going to care? I'm like, you know what? Even if it's a couple people who like love it, it's worth it because that's supposed to be the whole point of this thing. And so, it was a nice lesson for me to kind of relearn. I sort of knew that before because sometimes I would post stories and I'm like, no one's going to care. And sometimes they just got massive interaction on social media. So it was nice to kind of relearn that as well. And the biggest thank you, of course, goes to any of you who are listening, whether it was one episode or all 411. And if you listen to all of them, God bless you. Thanks for letting me come into your earpods, speakers, however you listened. And thanks for putting up with my opinions and thoughts and stupid jokes and whatever other annoying thing that maybe I did on the microphone that I don't even know about, that maybe you picked up on. I really appreciate everyone who listens. It really means a lot to me that anybody cares about anything that I do with Holy City Center. But especially with the podcast, since it's more me. It's less of here's an article, read this. It's more me, even if I'm just talking about the news. I appreciate people who give feedback, good and bad. I should say, positive or negative feedback, I guess, about what I was doing. Who left reviews, who interacted on YouTube or any of the posts and things related to this. Just thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. But although that may sound like I'm saying goodbye, that's more of just because it's going to be a little bit of a break, and I don't know how long it's going to be and how the format may change. It's not. I'm planning on coming back, as I've said a bunch. But in the off chance things change, I just wanted to make sure I said that and express my sincere gratitude to all of you for listening. Like I said, you can still subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already. So when it returns, bam, it'll show up in your feed. I also mentioned all the other places you can follow Holy City Center. And I'm sure many of you already are in some capacity following at least one other part of this whole thing. And I appreciate that. I think no matter where you are on the political spectrum right now, things can seem pretty crazy. And I think a lot of people who follow Holy City Center, particularly follow this podcast, their beliefs are mostly in line with mine, if not completely. So if you're feeling like me, overwhelmed, sometimes defeated, down, not sure what to do, not sure what the path forward is for some stuff and what we can do here in the local level as it relates to these big national things, and being frustrated with some of our local politicians, I've appreciated, number one, your support and letting me talk about these things. But I try to stay positive. I don't have any words of wisdom really. But as tough as it seems, and there's going to be days you might not want to consume national news. You might not want to think about what's going on in the world and just need a break. Trust me, I get it. We got a lot of fights ahead and we got to pace ourselves. But I'm still, going to do what I can with Holy City Center to share news and information as it relates to those things, whether it's legislation that's happening here locally or stories we need to pay attention to. And so I hope you follow on all those other platforms so you can still see those things until the show comes back. It can be tough out there, but I'm hopeful that, we'll eventually get back to a more relaxed and normal atmosphere, even if it's just a temporary reprieve. But I'm trying to remain hopeful and positive, and I hope you guys are as well. So until the show returns, I really, truthfully, although I know I need a break, I can't wait already to return. I'll miss talking to you guys until then, but until the return, good night and good luck.